All righty, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is your host, Heidi Jester. And of course, we have the great, the wonderful Bleacher Bums Gaming Anthony in the house. I contacted you the other day. I left a message about some videos you're doing and some stuff going on your channel. We emailed back a couple times. So, like, hey, we haven't chatted for a long time. Let's get together and do it. And I'm like, let's do it. That's a great idea. So, welcome, Anthony.
Good
How
to
are you
be
doing?
here. And you can throw in a couple more superlatives if you want. I won't stop you. No, good to talk to you, buddy. Good to see you. And yeah, just I'm finally getting back after our high school football season ended, getting back into working on my games and doing some videos here and there. So I guess a sense of normalcy after football consumed my life for
Right, right. I mean,
months.
I had the summer was pretty much shot for me. I had my medical issue going on. The fall was pretty much shot for you because you got your full time job, plus you got your college, or I'm sorry, you got your coaching going on. And then, of course, you have all your sports stuff going on. So you didn't have any time. So finally, it takes the holidays for us to get together. Is that what it's going to
Right.
be? It's like, it's like the best time of the year, the holidays where we get to spend time with our loved ones. So that's great, though. That's actually wonderful.
No, it is, and I'm actually off all this week mainly because I my company you have to use all your vacation or you lose it.
All right, right. Me
So
too.
I'm
Yeah.
burning the rest of that up.
Hmm.
Spending time to focus on getting stuff done with the college football game, and yeah, so still grinding, not really doing anything fun or relaxing, but I guess fun still. It is fun.
Well, let's for those of you who haven't been on my channel for a while or don't know Bleacher Bums Gaming, let's kind of introduce you to him. He's got a channel, obviously, on YouTube. He's also the creator, designer, distributor, manufacturer, and everything when it comes time to Glory Days Boxing. And now another project, Glory Days Football.
Mhm.
So, I mean, how many projects you got going on at the same time? That is crazy.
Well, I'm getting to the point where I'm pretty much done with the boxing game after I get the 2021 college season done for the football. I'll do a fictional set. That'll be early next year. And then sometime around the spring, I'll do one more real life set, which I'm actually taking requests for now. And then after that, it'll just be, freebie fighters here and there. And I have to, and there's some supplementary things I'm going to work on that will be free for the game too. But, just, I guess kind of winding that down, it'll have, with the next real life set, it'll have 1,200 real life fighters available for the game,
Wow.
and
That is
100 fictional. And in the fictional universe, I'll kind of do like an example like Keith does with his stuff, where I'll introduce new boxers every year or so and have retirements and kind of keep a running storyline there in a fictional universe, which I think is kind of fun. And it's
yeah.
a lot of people usually like to do tournaments with real life what if matches and replays, but there's still, I think, a niche that likes that fictional alternate universe. So, I'm going to keep that running and make that a living universe. And then, focus on, again, just focusing on getting teams out for the college game. And one, one thing I did there, I don't know if I'm going to regret it or not, but most college football games don't have all 130 FBS teams, right? So
Mhm.
usually you'll get packs or 50 teams or conferences or whatever. So I'm doing all 130 teams, and
Ooh.
that'll
That's
be nice, but
yeah.
it takes a while to do 130 college
Yeah.
football
Well, I
teams.
mean, there's what 80, 90 kids on a college football team, and you got to rate most of all of them. And oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah, and
So
that part isn't too terribly bad because and it's basically due to space constraints on the cards. You can see on the cards. I only have room for top 6 ball carriers and top 6 pass catchers. So that part isn't
Okay,
so
so you don't
bad,
need
but
you don't need to all the scrubs and Raider and get all those. So you just look at the main
yeah,
driving force of the car. Okay, that's good. That's good. Shoo, that's a
no.
lifesaver right there. Yeah.
And it's not in the like the lines and things like that, they're kind of incorporated as a group into the trench control, which is similar to the way the ring general control works in the boxing game. And so that part's not too terribly bad, and it's just the sheer volume of teams. And I hadn't planned to do a pro version of it, but I think based on some feedback, I will, and I'll be able to make that a little bit more player centric because I can use bigger team cards, which will be nice. And so that I'll probably work on a little bit later, 2023, and then the next combat sport will probably be Glory Days Wrestling. Well, it will be Glory Days Wrestling,
There you
and
go.
that'll be focused. I'm not a real fan of modern wrestling, so it'll be focused on the territory days, pretty much 70s and 80s, and all those guys from back then. Which
Nice.
I still, when I do watch wrestling, I usually watch old matches on YouTube.
Right, right, right. The glory days. Yeah, I would. Yeah, those
Exactly.
were those were the heydays for us, our generation. That was 80s and 90s. That we'd talk about it at school. We'd hang out with our friends. We'd buy the little pay-per-view packages and everything. Yeah, the memories, good times for sure. So I've been meaning to ask you because this is kind of important because I host some other shows and I have some other game designers on, and I asked them this question as well because I think it's for any budding person because all of us, no matter who we are, have an idea and they go, "Oh, this would be a great game," right? But actually take that idea that you get, put the time and the effort to put in to actually create something, test it, and then find a place to actually will host it, find a
Mhm.
place that'll actually be able to a way for people to actually purchase the game, box it up, and send it to them and everything. To get that from an idea to actually sending it to people out there in the world, from all over the world, what is that feeling like? Is it a like a relief? Is it an accomplishment? Is it nervousness that people aren't going to like it? What is that?
It's a little bit of all that stuff because you actually, if you go back to when I was kind of playing around with prototypes, you contributed to Glory Days Boxing because you had an idea about why a certain fighter gets to go first each time because he's the better fighter. And because of what you talked about, I came up with the momentum rule for that game, which dictates which fighter controls the action. Hey, what's up, Mike? How you doing, buddy?
Hey, good
And
to see you, First Time Machine. Yes, sir.
so yeah, you contributed there,
I
and
did. I would
it's
like to think I should get half the royalties. I think.
we'll maybe work on 32%. We'll see how that goes. But so there's a lot that goes on. And when I started designing the boxing game, I probably worked on that for close to a year before it was released. And I hadn't planned to release it. I was just playing around with it on my channel because I was doing some other stuff. And I some people were interested, and I'm like, and you kind of then the nervousness kicks in because you think about all that
Right.
goes into releasing a game. And
Right.
like you said, will people like it? I've got to find suppliers and a good printer, and I finally
Right.
committed to a release date, and that's kind of the thing that spurs me when I commit to something, put it in writing, put it on whatever, put it on video. Then suddenly I'm bound to do it. If I had just, I might release this at some point. It might still not be released.
Right. Right.
But
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
but
mean, I know I worked on my hockey game. I've been working on my hockey game for 6 years, changing things, editing things. Last year it was, maybe 2021, 2022. It was going to be, the time I was getting inspired to do this. I went through the next step, getting, actually posting it and getting people to test it. And people liked it and everything. I'm telling you guys, it is to get a game out and finished. It is a major accomplishment. So anybody that's done it, I have nothing but the highest respect for, because, like I said, you can spend all that time and effort designing and playing and testing it. It's actually taking the next step it separates us losers from the winners like yourself.
No, I wouldn't go that far, but but it's funny you mention that because I'm so I guess anal like would be one word you could use, but also just very and I think this comes from coaching football for so long, just very detail oriented. Like I want to make sure everything's covered. I went to the point with this where I'm like, I'm watching videos on how to ship, and that,
Mm-hmm.
that was one
Mm-hmm.
thing that was intimidating. And I'm like, I got to the point where I even shipped dummy games to one of my son that's in the Navy was in Washington at that time. So I just did that to make sure I could get the hang of shipping, even though, it's pretty easy. You print the label, pay for it, and tell the USPS to come pick it up. But I tested everything. I don't know
Wow.
that anybody else tests shipping, but yeah, I even did that before I released the game. So
Well, like I said, I got in early with you with the Glory Days boxing. You were, obviously looking for just suggestions and thoughts, and a couple comments that I made, and you took it to heart, which is awesome. But now Glory Days boxing has exploded. What do you got? You got like 6 expansions now? How many
no,
expansions are there for it now?
besides the base set's 100 all-time great heavyweights, and then there's 8 additional sets,
Okay,
a
8
second set of
more
100
additional. Okay.
heavyweights.
Yeah, I can't even keep up with your. There's heavyweight, there's lightweights, there's
Every
middleweight.
weight division, and then 2 supplement sets that are a mixture of some junior divisions and fighters missing from that people have wanted to see from the others. So total of 11 sets out so far for the game.
Wow, that is. Did you ever think, right? Wow, I got this idea. I would like to make a boxing game. You would get to the point where it would be like 11 expansions plus the base game the base game alone has got 100 fighters in it, right? So, you're going to have 1,200 fighters or something like that that's going to be in the system. 1,200 fighters. That's like 100 years of baseball, basically.
Yeah.
It's like 1,200. It's literally 1,200. That's 600 matches somebody could have in Glory Days boxing and not have any repeats. Oh my
Yeah.
God, that is huge, and that's amazing.
I had no idea. I didn't know if it would sell. And again, in terms of selling it, I didn't. At this point, I still am very busy with my job and I was busy with coaching. I'm probably not going to coach anymore after this season to focus more on the games. But, so it wasn't something that I'm like, this is my business. I need to make it work. It was just a hobby or a passion. I love boxing. I love all sports, but, so I'm like, yeah, well, I made this game for me because it's a game I wanted to play. And maybe a few people will like it, but we've got a pretty good hardcore group, that we have on our Facebook page and whatnot. And yeah, very good community too, all very knowledgeable and good guys. And, it's been humbling. And I remember after it was released, it was real weird, like coming on YouTube and seeing other people play the game.
Right.
I think the first time, I think Al Red Sox fan might have been, he definitely was one of the first, him and Rob, explanation point, one of the first guys that put the game on the channel. And I remember getting my wife, I'm like, come here, you got to see this shit. And she's like, what? And she's like, oh, great. You're staring at people rolling dice. Like, no, that's my game. They're playing my game.
People play your stuff. It's your game. It's people giving thoughts and opinions and playing your game, right? Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, if you're not familiar with Bleacher Bums Gaming, there is his YouTube channel. He's got a lot going on. Obviously, with the glory days line of sports, because now college football is in the neck of the woods, and you're also going to be doing pro football. And
Yeah.
now I did a baseball review show in 2021, and I rated your baseball game as a joke. Obviously, I named it number one baseball game of all time, but that's been put on the back burners now. I'm so disappointed to hear that.
Yes, it's not going to be vaporware, but like we talked a little bit before, and it's like a lot of good baseball games out there, and then that's kind of the focus of the market. Baseball is if you have if you have a good system and a good engine design, it's probably the easiest game to produce because everything is tangible. You can plug stats in, and however you work the stats into your game, so there's a lot of guys that have really cool takes on it, and Inside Pitch is a great game. Payoff Pitch, obviously, Joe Bryan, a good friend of mine. And going back, APA and Strat have had followings forever. And Deep Drive Baseball I just got recently, and that's very enjoyable. And Fall Classic, Field Day Baseball. So, yeah, just a ton of good games out there.
Yep.
And
I just picked up the Deep Drive Baseball in the 2022 season. I actually got some emails from some people that had watched my review from a couple years ago and said, "Hey, you might want to look at the new version because it's been updated." So I did. I ended up buying a couple seasons, and I want to try it out. Dave Gardner's got a hockey question, so
Dave's actually he's got season ticket baseball, which is a game Clay Dreslock came up with. And obviously, Clay going back to football and baseball mogul, he's been doing those for years. And it's a really good looking game too. And I do actually have the 1919 season for that. I just haven't got around to really trying it yet, but real good job. Looks like it flows real easy too. So yeah, there's a ton of good baseball games.
There's a lot of good baseball games, a lot of good sim games all the way around in general. A lot of good stuff if you're a sports simmer, to be honest. I wish you try to have more 70s. Just give them a chance, Dave. I mean, we talked in the beginning with Anthony. Creating a season file is a lot of work. It's a lot of work for every season file, especially, I mean, most game designers for sports sims are solo. You're not, you don't have a team of people. I mean, I don't see anybody teaming up with Anthony to create season files, and he's got to do it all himself. And that's rating every single player or every single team that is going to have a card. And that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I know, just for doing for a hockey game, it's a lot of work. So
I have tried to get my wife to come on board and do that. She usually tells me to go to hell, so that hasn't been successful so far.
Say, I just need you to start, I'll give you the number. You just write it up on the spreadsheet for me. Oh yeah, I would think that would be, yeah. And then of course, anytime you make any changes or you want to implement a new stat or something like that, it changes everything in your game. And so yeah, it's all craziness. Anyways, you ever find time to actually play anything besides your games anymore?
I do. Like I said, I've played some Deep Drive offline. I still I play Gary Brown's Legends of Boxing. I've got the computer game of that, and I've got his Stone Cold Hockey game too, which I think that's a brilliant design because you can knock out 5 or 6 games. And I know Dave Gardner was playing a lot of that too. You knock out five or 6 games in half an hour, and it gives you enough that you actually feel like you're part of the hockey experience. I'm playing a replay now with the Broad Street Bullies, the Flyers from '74. Really nice. Enjoyable because I used to watch them a lot when I was a kid. And yeah, so
awesome. I was going through, and you can't see because of my background, but I was going through some stuff. I got cards and I've got boxes and I've got stuff everywhere in my room right now. So obviously we're doing the college football. We're going to be doing the pro football. Any thought of we talked about maybe baseball down the line somewhere. But your next big project obviously is going to be the wrestling.
Yeah.
Any thought of what you're going to do after all that? Any other sports that would kind of interest you at all? Racing or
No, I'm not a race guy. That will probably be enough because I
oh
think,
yeah, it would be plenty, but I didn't know if you
yeah,
had any like future
I've had a lot of people that quite a few people actually
basketball,
that play.
nothing. Hockey doesn't, you don't have any great hockey ideas or
I love to watch hockey. I'm a very much in person hockey watcher because it's interesting to me to see the dynamic. A lot of stuff behind the puck is more interesting than what's going on following the puck. But I just don't have enough in-depth knowledge of the game, to really design something around hockey. So I don't think I
okay.
could do that
Okay.
justice.
Okay. I
But
thought maybe we'd get a sneak peek, maybe 5 years down the line or something. That maybe deep down you're a NASCAR fan and you really want to get a racing game out there or something. But
if I did the
no,
one game that is still kind of up in the air is MMA, because a lot of people have asked for that to play the boxing game. And
right?
I know the sport fairly well. I actually, I
Hmm.
know the striking part because I boxed, and in it as a kind of midlife crisis, I started doing jujitsu, which is very fun and grueling. And, so I know the grappling and submission aspects too. And it's just putting them all together so that it transitions smoothly off the
Hmm.
card. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the challenge there. But I've toyed with that a little bit too.
Well, I mean, if you do the boxing and then you do your wrestling, right? Maybe then afterwards you can figure a way to merge these two together, which is really the MMA part, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I've got some definite ideas on transition because MMA, you've got your stand up, you've got your clinch game, grappling, submission. So it goes from feet to ground to against the cage. So it's just getting that to flow smoothly. But I've got some ideas on that I will definitely play with and see.
Replay Gamer's got a question here in the chat. Do you have any seasons for college football game done yet?
I am very close to getting the 2021 football season done, and I was telling IDJ earlier that right now the college game's only available on PDF, and I just finally, with supply chain issues kind of resolved, I just ordered my game boxes and sent everything off for printed version of the football game. So the base printed game, by the time the boxes usually take the longest, they usually take 3 weeks. So that will be ready to go early to mid January. And that should coincide with the time I've got the 2021 season done. And we'll be getting those cards back from the printer too. So that should all be happening early to mid
Now,
January. And
so I know you are a Buckeye hater.
yeah,
I know you're a Buckeye hater, and you purposely rank them really, really bad so that they don't win every game every season. What do you think of the chances for the Buckeyes this year going up against Georgia? You think Georgia's stacked? You think Georgia's going to take it?
I honestly don't think Georgia's as good as last year. I think they should beat Ohio State because Ohio State's defense has been less than consistent this year. In fact, they've been abysmal at times. But again, they're playing pretty good though, minus that beat down against Michigan. They're just they're kind of an anomaly. They could jump up and definitely spring an upset, or they could lose by 2 touchdowns, or 3 touchdowns even. So
Oh, and I hear you're a Ute hater too.
I really don't hate the Utes. I just don't consider them.
See, this is what you get. This is what you're going to get for the rest of your life now. When you rate somebody's stuff inaccurately, well, I mean, accurately to you and by the stats, inaccurately to them, they're gonna, they're gonna be like, "Oh, you just hate my team. You just hate this. You just hate that." So you're gonna get a lot of
But,
flack for the rest of your life.
but see, they're inaccurately because Ohio State doesn't score a touchdown every time you roll the dice, and that's
There's something wrong with the game, then, right? It's not the team.
gotta be the game engine.
Got to be the game, right? Exactly. But it's fun to do. It's fun to play. I'm really looking forward to the college football one. I think you took a great idea where you're basically, instead of simulating every single play of the game, you're kind of narrowing it down to a drive and see what happens on the drive. And then if you need to, you go play by play of the drive.
Yeah.
So,
and that was the thing I wanted. I mean, I tried to do that in the boxing game, and football, if you play most football games, if you go play by play, you're looking at a 2-hour experience, right? And you don't always have that much time. So one thing I think will be, a good thing with a football game, or is a good thing with a football game since it's released, is that however you want to play it, you can. There's a play-by-play mode. You can do a hybrid mode where that you're talking about. You simulate the first half of the drive, then jump into play-by-play, and then you can do a full quick play mode where you basically the drive split into 2 parts and you simulate 2 parts. So that kind of, I guess, hopefully scratches the itch. And the other thing too, I have an Excel helper with the game, so that if you're doing completely simulated drives, you can still assign individual stats to the players on the team, which I think is big.
That's nice.
Yeah, so
that's cool.
Yeah,
did you
tried
design
to give,
that, or did you get some help with that, or?
I probably asked my son 2 or 3 questions, but I'm actually
Okay.
I'm pretty good with Excel, so I was able to
Okay.
get it figured out mostly myself. But yeah,
Because you got all those fancy formulas and stuff, and yeah, I mean, you can get some really cool things done with it. It's just learning all that stuff in the background.
Yeah, and it's most of the stuff that I used on the spreadsheets I was familiar with, and so it definitely a lot of trial and error with that, and a lot of cursing, but it works pretty well, I think, now. And in the quick play mode where it's just based off drives, your stats will kind of not be as I guess player individual as you might get, but if you play the hybrid mode, you get the drive stats, which are kind of distributed based on percentages, and then the play-by-play mode will add that individuality. So I think that's a good mix, the hybrid mode, actually.
Oh, yeah, right. That's because you're a BYU fan. That's why you hate the Utes. I got it.
Now, he says that like it's a bad thing, but I don't know. There's no accounting for taste. I mean, I think Mike, he also is a big fan of the Bay City Rollers, and it kind of goes with the Utah football team too. And no accounting for taste, but he's still a great guy. Still a great guy.
Oh, he is a great guy. That is for sure. Oh, it's just fun just to hear you teasing about it. That's great. The college and the pro. Not to get too technical, but are they designed kind of similarly, or is there some differences between them that you can talk about? Or
yeah, no, there'll be differences. Like again, the college team, like I said, these are like basically bookmarkers, the team cards, and with the pro team, because it's less cards at this stage of the game, it will probably be. Each team will have an 8.5 by 11 team card. And that way everything will be able to be, like I said, player centric, so that instead of going off a base, I guess, average for a team and then assigning adjustments based on the player, which the game, will do automatically. But You'll be able to, hone in stats to the individual player. Devontae Adams, as an example, might have more big plays than Darren Waller on the Raiders and things like that.
Right.
So, and, the Jets with their musical quarterback, Zach Wilson, former BYU quarterback that we don't claim anymore. He'll come in and fail to score touchdowns and complete 50% of his passes. Mike White will, be up over 60. So I think that'll be a very good selling point with the pro game, where it's definitely going to be a lot more individualized, and you'll still have the three options on depending on how you want to play the game for quick play, hybrid, and play-by-play.
Right. Awesome. Wow, that's cool. Yeah, guys, if you're in the chat, we've got quite a few people in the chat. If you are in the quest and you have any questions for Anthony, of course, Bleacher Bums Gaming. If you have any thoughts on his games, you want to tell him how wrong his stats are on anything, now's your chance to speak.
Do you actually want to look at the latest iteration of the baseball game and kind of where I'm going with it? You want to see that?
Absolutely. I don't know why you would try to hide that from me. So, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah. If anything you want to share, that'd be awesome.
Let me go to present my screen.
All right. We will have a world premiere then on the channel. That is awesome.
It's not going to be too spectacular, but so can you see that?
Not until you share your screen.
Huh? Oh,
not until you share your screen.
Let's do this. Okay, there we go.
There
see
we
that?
Go. Yeah, it's popping up here. It's taking a while. There we go. Oh, beautiful. All right.
So the way that we are, like we talked about this, I am looking, you're always looking for a way to incorporate the pitcher more without overcomplicating things. And I don't like 50-50 formats. Well, I shouldn't say I don't like them. I want to try and avoid them. So you can see on these color-coded charts here,
yep.
These will be specific places where hits go, and I've got splits figured in here. Walks will go in here, and strikeouts. So the way that interacts with the pitching cards, and I'll just go here, we'll use, this is 1914 Philadelphia, so I use Wally Shang. He's got his results here, and the first thing you do is you roll off a plate control card here with two D6s.
Okay.
And I wanted to keep the control theme because that kind of goes with all the Glory Days games. So if you can throw in the sweet spot, it's going to go off the batter's card, and then you have park and range plays. If you throw in this spot, it goes to the pitcher's card, but the pitchers are all different. So Bob Shockey here, his card is done. So the pitchers, depending on how they do comparative to the league average, they could have a blank, or they could have a result here where they take away a potential hit, or turn a strikeout into a regular out, or turn a regular out into a strikeout. So using these two examples, if we roll here, we go straight to the batter's card. If I happen to roll in this area, first I would check the pitcher's card, and if the number rolled was blank, then you just go to the corresponding result on the batter's card. If that number is populated by another result, that's the result that resolves the play. And obviously you don't want to do that where you're checking the pitcher's card every time, because that will skew stats too much. So that's why I incorporated, and this is kind of a 50-50 mechanic, where depending on how accurate or wild the pitcher is throwing, they'll have a shot to take it away. So it's not going to go to their card every time, and every time it goes to their card, it might not be a result.
Oh, right.
But it will give
even if it goes to their card, there's a chance it'll just be blank and it
so
goes back. Yeah.
It'll give you an impact of the pitchers, and then different ballparks, and these are both, average, but different ballparks might have a situation where down here you have a extra pitcher result in there because of the more of the pitcher's park.
Because it's
So
more of a pitcher. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, awesome.
yeah,
That's
that's
good. At least,
how
at least you're getting somewhere with it.
I'm getting somewhere. And at some point in a couple of months, I'll have a demo up, and I'll probably replay the 1914 World Series. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at now, to have, again, just enough of a pitcher influence, and also fluid enough that you're not rolling the dice twice for each at bat, that type of thing. So,
Right. Just keep the game flowing, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice, awesome.
So that's a
on
preview into
average,
my.
what your glorious days college football? You're thinking half hour to an hour you can play it in. You think?
It depends what mode. A hybrid mode, you should be able to get done, depending on how effective the defenses are. You should be able to get a hybrid mode game done in anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes. So it's still a balanced experience. Quick play, 25 to 35 minutes, and full play-by-play will be like a lot of other games where you'll probably be an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, this football is one of those games, man. Yeah, there's a lot going on with alignments, players that are actually on the field. It's not like hockey where the same five guys are on and then they go off and the other five come on. You got players coming in and out. You got different, tight end, two tight end formation. You got three wide receiver formation. You got the pro set. Different formations means different players are on the field.
Yeah, and some things, I've done some things in that design. Like some games will have, you roll for a specific defense versus the offense you're running. I don't do that, and I'll tell you why. And it's kind of part of my problem is I look at that as a coach too. And so to me, in a football situation, if you're a defensive coach, down and distance. So that's going to be, I incorporate that into the regular roles, right? So there's only a couple of results where you'll get penalized or helped by a down and distance situation defensively. So and it's kind of a pet peeve. A football coach, if I'm coordinating a defense, I'm never going to call a goal line defense when it's 3rd down and 17.
Right. Right.
Or vice versa, when it's 3rd and 2, jump into a prevent or a 3-shell defense, with playing with the DBs playing sticks, So
right.
I didn't incorporate that part into it because I just don't think that's realistic, because coaches game plan for that. So, that's I guess a subtle difference that I've just kind of, baked into the engine as it is, with just a couple of minor exceptions. And the other thing, and someone asked me about this early on, is that, well, if you have the ball at the 12-yard line, the offense isn't going to run a long pass play, and that's correct. But I left that in the football game for this simple reason. One thing that does affect completion percentages in the red zone is the field is condensed. So you don't have as much ground to cover in the secondary, and your DBs, if they're playing a cover 2 or Tampa 2, cover 3, cover 4, whatever, they don't have to bail as deep, so they can, drop back. If that ball's on the 12, they can just drop back a yard or two in the end zone, because they have the back of the end zone to help them defend too. So I left that mechanic in there because it's harder to complete a long pass, and that kind of simulates the compressed zone when you're in the red zone.
You don't have to worry about the guy speeding by him because there's only 10 yards behind him. Yeah. So they sit on that goal line and get an extra defender from having the end zone in there. So
so there's a couple of little quirky things like those two examples that are in the game that again I'm looking at not as a game designer but as a football coach, which maybe a blessing, maybe a curse. I don't know, but that's how I
Well, see,
look
I
at
think that's going to be the interesting part of this. Is yes, the game is being designed by a sports simmer, but it's also being designed by a football coach. You see over your shoulder, Coach Crooks over your shoulder. You're part coach, right? So you're going into this thinking about all of the coaching parts of how what do we have to do on certain situations, third and long, third and short, fourth down, end of the half, and all that.
it. Yeah.
So I really think it's going to be. I think this is as much as I think your boxing game, which people love. I think this is even going to be better than the boxing game. That's my feeling, just because of your your history with you and how your understanding of football because of being a coach. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And again, it's tough to get as detailed as you want because ultimately it still has to be a game that can be played in a reasonable amount of time and flow. So there's a lot of that goes on too, where I have to kind of dial myself back in terms of some of the design aspects. But yeah, all about
yeah.
balance.
I mean, sure, we could play a football game. It just take 12 hours to play it,
Yeah. Well, and then that's a problem when you have a board game that takes as long as it takes to play a real game. That's not going to be fun because most people would rather just watch a real game if that was the case.
Right. Have you had any thoughts, and maybe not, but have you had any thoughts? I know, especially with the boxing game, of taking and making it kind of a digital adaptation of the board game. I know a lot of sports sims are now going with this digital adaptation.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
It's really tough to find computer programmers. I'd love to. We've stopped and started on that probably 3 times. There is it's called Vassal, and I don't use that. I'm not very familiar with it, but somebody that purchased the game has created a Vassal mod that works pretty well. And all you have to do to use that is present him with proof that you purchased the game and a fighter set, and then you can do it online. So that's a digital or a simulation that kind of speeds things up and gives you a visual too on the screen. But yeah, I've started, and the one guy that I really was hoping we could get it done with, really nice guy and has good ideas, and I actually have early alpha versions of the game which were really promising. But it's just hasn't worked out for him against his real life stuff because he works in the IT industry. My oldest son actually knows a lot of programming, and I've been bugging him to do it. And he says, yeah, but he's very busy with his stuff too. And, so I don't know, I try and present it to him like, no, this can be your legacy, Matt. You can take this over when I am gone and retired from everything. And, so.
Right. I mean, that's important stuff, right?
Yeah.
Legacy. What do you leave behind, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, Glory Days Boxing, when you're not around anymore, Anthony, Glory Days Boxing will still be here because you created it. And there's going to be all those printed copies out there, which is a great addition to lots of sports fans out here. So our legacy is, what we leave behind. And you left behind some really great stuff. Well,
Yeah,
you will
like I said,
eventually.
well, thank you. And it's like, again, it's very humbling that people enjoy playing it, but I know there's a big demand for a computer version, so I continue to look for a programmer that can do it, and hopefully someday. And I think it actually would translate fairly well to the PC. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I know it is. It was with COVID the last couple of years and everyone working from home and stuff. IT and programmers and coders and things have been super high demand.
Yeah.
Now the companies are slowly getting everyone to come back full time. People are going back to work. that burden on the IT and the coders and the everything are kind of lighting up a little bit, hopefully. So maybe in a couple of years, I know there's a couple of war game companies that I work a lot with, and they've been trying to get some of their war games to have a digital adaptation, and they had worked with the crew, and basically the crew said, you're going to have to pay us twice as much as they're paying us now, or we're out of here. And the guy's like, I can't afford to pay you twice as much as I'm paying you. And they're like, see ya. And they left. So it's just like, yeah, I mean, it would be great to be able to do it. It's just, you got to find somebody that's willing to do it for you.
You know what's possible is maybe we could find one of those IT guys from Twitter that got laid off that's looking for work and get them to it.
There you go.
It seems like there's a lot.
They're gonna want some money, Anthony. They're gonna want some money up front. They're gonna want they're gonna want at least 6 figures up front. And I know Glory Days Boxing makes a lot of money, but I don't know if it makes that much.
No. Not even close.
You're not driving around in your Maserati? Is that what you're telling me?
No Maserati, no vacation home in the Hamptons yet.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I talked to Herman Lutman, a war game designer extraordinaire, and he produces 3 or 4 great games a year, and he tells me the same thing. It's like, I don't make anything from doing this. Very little money do I actually see from, by the time you pay all the fees and all the, costs that you have, pretty soon you have pretty much nothing. So,
well, with me, it pushes me into a higher tax bracket, but I don't get that income myself because it goes back into the company.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah,
he tells me he does it for the love and the passion of this of the wargaming, or the gaming in general.
100% the same. It's a passion. It's fun, and if I did it for money, I never would have started doing it or quit after the first.
Exactly. There's very few people that can actually sit down and say, okay, I'm done working now. I'm just going to do board game design my whole life for the rest of my life. Very few people can do that.
And one thing that'll be cool, I mean, I'm planning to retire in a couple of years if the stock market comes back soon, but it'll be a good thing to keep me busy in retirement when I'm not traveling and doing stuff. And and that's kind of why another small reason why I decided to push ahead and do it. I'm like, this could really be my stay busy thing during retirement. So that's that's kind of the ultimate goal there. And I'll make enough for a dinner here and there, and that's all good.
Right.
But it's the same with coaching high school football too. We some places you make good money coaching it, but in Arizona, one year I actually took the hours, I tracked the hours and divided it by my stipend, and it was like 42 cents an hour. So we don't do that for the money either. So.
You're not getting paid multi-millions to do the coaching, huh? Damn.
No, my house is not next to Cliff Kingsbury, where we have that big panoramic view out of our back. And you know what? I'm actually more popular at my school than Cliff Kingsbury is right here with Cardinal fans. So I'd rather have that as well.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, it was so much fun talking with you and catching back up with you and just finding out what you've been up to and just hearing, your thoughts on stuff and, emailing back and forth just ain't the same as actually talking with somebody and listening to them. So I'm glad we got a chance to get together today and tonight and talk with everybody and say hi and just find out what the heck you've been up to.
Well, and one thing you're going to be interested in, I've started doing some Deadball Diaries on my channel. I know that you're just dying to watch those.
The Deadball. Yeah, I know. The Deadball stuff drives me crazy. When you said earlier you're going to show me this baseball, I got all excited, and then you said here's the guys from 1914. I roll my eyes. Oh God, what is he doing? This isn't baseball.
I do have 79 too, but I wasn't going to show you that just for that specific reason. I know
I
you
know.
love the
I
dead
know
ball.
he's probably thinking, all right, we'll show him the really good stuff, the dead ball stuff. And yeah, it's good. It's good that I leave comments and and I'm just teasing you about
Yeah.
the stuff when you're doing your live streams and stuff. Speaking of which, you're going to continue the live streaming and you're going to continue showing off the games in action. Is that still going to be a thing? I know
Yeah.
one of my pet peeves is, especially with war games and war game designs, is they don't do jack to show people how to play their game, right? And then when people get the game, there's all these questions and problems with how do I actually do this? How do I actually do that? And the things that separates good companies from bad companies are the companies that would actually spend time to show people how to play their game. So I really love to see, especially, it helps you're a YouTuber as well, because you get these game designers who are not YouTubers and they try to do what you're doing and they can't. So you got the best of worlds. You're a YouTuber and you can show people how to play the game.
No, I think that's a good point, and especially now, a lot of people, everybody learns differently, and for some people, it's just easier to watch a video. Like Tony Porter at Cards and Dice TV. I think he does a great job because he does that with about every game on his channel. Shows people how to play it, and I think if you're designing a game, especially, you need to have at least 2 or 3 or 4 tutorials up to,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
because and it's I'll get questions here and there via email, and I'll especially early on, I incorporated a lot of those questions into the tutorials too. So, because if one person has a question, there's probably a few others that do as well. So yeah,
Right.
it's
Right. Absolutely. I just think showing people ahead of time what your game is like, right, makes for a better product altogether, because people that watch it that are like, well, should I watch this to see if I want to get this game or not? Right. Okay. If they end up not getting the game because they don't like it, which is better than them buying the game, playing it, not liking it, and telling 20 people they know, oh, this game, no, it's no good. I don't like it. Right. It's better for them to see it up front and say to themselves, oh, I don't like this game. I'm going to buy it. So a lot of
Mhm.
companies don't want to do this because they don't want to lose sales that way. But I think in the long run, it actually saves them sales, because those 20 people that don't like the game aren't telling 20 other people how terrible the game is.
No, I think that's a very good point. 100% correct. I mean, you need to present as much of the game as possible so there are no surprises. And I thought it would be this and it wasn't, so it sucks. Well, no, there's enough out there, and I'm not just specifically talking about my games, but games in general. If you have enough where you can see it in action and make a decision, okay, this sounds like it might be up my alley, and and or you're on the fence, but you decide to take a chance, and sometimes you're pleasantly surprised. And Dave was here earlier, and he kind of talked about that with season ticket baseball, how it was recommended to him and he took a chance, and now he's ordered a bunch of seasons and,
Right.
Really enjoying the game. And
Right.
so that's, I think that's vital. So, and especially too, if you can see more of the game and learn more of the game through videos or whatever medium, when you get it, you're probably going to be more excited about playing it, because to me, when you have a higher comfort level, you're not going to be as intimidated by a rule book or whatever. You are going to be more excited to just get it and start playing. And, that positive and negative things, they snowball, so if you're frustrated and you're almost got it figured out, something else frustrates you, then I'm going to not play this game, and vice versa. Oh, this is cool, or this happened now, I want to see more, or can't wait to see what happens next game or next fight, whatever, but it works both ways. So yeah, it's good to provide enough so people can educate themselves.
Right. Yeah. I like I said, I've seen it where for whatever reason, people that are not YouTubers, right? We're talking about big game companies, big war game companies, right? They got a great product, and then they have their guy doing videos trying to teach people, and you can't see anything. The lighting's bad, the sound is off. I mean, just terrible situations, and obviously you can't learn anything from that. So you want, I've been saying for years, game manufacturers should come to people like myself and other YouTubers out there and say, "Hey, I've got this game. I need videos on it so I can teach people how to play it." Right? That would be how to do it. You got the best of both worlds. You have the game and you're also a YouTuber, so you know how to do both sides of it. So that helps. Hopefully it helps anyways. That's the worst. Bad company videos. That is Dave Garner said exactly what I said, but a lot better than I said it, because when you see a bad video, you don't learn anything, you don't hear anything, you don't see anything. You're wasting your time.
Well, the other thing too, you want to see enthusiasm too. I mean, are you going to go watch somebody do a video that's just finished 14 hours of coding and now their boss asks them to do a 5-minute clip of they're going to be tired. They're not, and conversely, you go watch Al Red Sox fan who gets as excited as anyone doing games, and you're going to be like, holy shit, this guy's having fun. This must be awesome,
Right. So this is Dave is right on here. And what I'm trying to get to is really sad when our community does better videos than the game makers. And that's exactly my point. This is not just for, I'm not talking about just sports games. I'm talking about games. I'm talking about board games. I'm talking about every kind of gaming out there. It's really bad when the fans do a better job than the actual companies at promoting the games, doing things for the games, creating things for the games, getting add-ons and all that extra stuff that they do for the games because they're just a fan and they love it so much.
Well, and Dave's a good example. Dave is, and I like and respect Clay Dresclaw, but he doesn't do a lot of that. So people like Dave, and Dave did a very good breakdown. I think it was yesterday, on why I play season ticket baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And he lays out all the pros and cons and specifically why he's bought into it, and that's going to sell games. So he's doing a good job for Clay promoting his product and getting it out there, because it was a well thought out video and very succinct points, and you can tell when he plays a game he likes it. And Jack, I am doing a baseball game. I've been doing a baseball game for about 4 years. I've literally got several iterations designed of it, and I've finally settled on one I'll eventually work on. And it's just not top of the list now. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of good baseball games out there, and I look at some other areas. There wasn't a large amount of college football games out there, and definitely boxing is very niche. It was it's Title Bout with Jim Trunzo and Title Bout 2 now, and Gary Brown with Legends of Boxing, and there a couple of other games, Digging Deep Boxing, I think, and Dice Boxing, but they're not as prevalent or promoted anymore. So I kind of look at, and again, I'm not doing it to sell a ton of games. It's a hobby and passion. I love the sport, but you also have to look at, for the amount of time you put in designing, where you're going to get, I guess, the best audience. And so, that baseball game will come, and it's just, it takes a lot longer to rate a baseball season than it does 100 boxers or even a football season. So, yeah.
3 to 5 years. I'm thinking 3 to 5 years. Slash Deep Gaming says, I always need to play through a demo before I buy a game. And he's smart. A lot of people are not that smart, but he's smart. watching somebody play the game, especially if they design the game, is crucial for me, especially nowadays. Finding out there's so many things coming out, there's so many things to do. Everybody wants your money, right? So the place that gives me the best value, the best information about what I'm getting is going to get my money.
Well, I'll give you a good example of that. I'm not a huge video gamer. Mostly I play MLB The Show on PlayStation because it's a beautiful game. But, occasionally, like one game I'm playing a lot now in my spare time is Triangle Strategy. And it's really not the kind of game I would normally play because it's very story heavy, and I like just to get in and play and have action. But I watched some videos on that, and the mechanics of all the different characters you can bring into your force are very interesting, and it makes you think. And I love strategy, obviously, and so I'm like, I'll just force myself to sit through the story, and I almost refunded it like the first hour. But then I started to get invested in some of the characters, and soon I'm like, God, these guys are dicks. I hate them. So I want to see where they go, So it's actually, I don't have a lot of time, like I said, to play video games, but that's usually what I go to because it's a very entertaining game and very cool combat mechanics. So yeah, and I would have never taken a chance or probably stuck with it if I hadn't watched some of those YouTube videos,
Right. Phoenix Knight says I usually seek out a few videos before buying as well. For bigger games, I usually want to play it myself via someone else first. Yeah, I agree. Watching someone playing the game is crucial nowadays, and there's just not, there's not a lot of videos out there that do that, and a lot of companies that do that, and it's a damn shame. It's a damn shame, and that's why wargaming is on the low end of gaming because they don't do that. Sports gaming is kind of on the low end of board gaming because we just don't do that, right?
Well, it's like I coach with a lot of younger guys. Actually, two of the guys I coach with at the school now, I actually coached them when they were in high school.
Oh, geez. Yeah, there you go.
And one of them is in his mid-30s now, so that tells you enough right there. But we were talking, I was telling him about that. He's like, "Oh no shit, that's cool." And so he went and checked it out. He's like, "Yeah, it looks really interesting." He goes, "But I just can't get into the whole rolling dice thing." And that's a thing I with a lot of younger people, they'd rather just push buttons on a controller, which is cool too. But it's definitely a niche genre, and I think a lot of us are north of 40 that play board games still, and that's fine. But at the same time, you've got to get younger people invested to keep it going.
It definitely takes some, I would say 80 to 90% of just sports people in general. If you say something about, hey, you like boxing, right? If you were to take your game outside an actual arena that's having a boxing match and just sit there with your little sign that said, boxing, Glory Days boxing board game, $25 or $100 or whatever you're selling for there, I bet you everyone there would buy a copy because everyone sees it and they go, "Oh yeah, this is cool. I want to play this game." 99, I would say 90% of sports people are like that. Wouldn't you agree?
God, I'm going to disagree with you.
Really? You think that?
And again, I think it depends on the age, because like with me, it's fun to go back and roll 1978 baseball game because in 1978 I was 15 and that was a magical year for the Yankees, and so you equate that to, or even 76, when Fidrich beat the Yankees on Monday Night Baseball. I still remember that game because I watched it. And so you go back and for us, older guys, we go back and play those board games, and it kind of takes us back to that time, and we get to relive that. And sadly, I don't think a lot of younger fans have the
Okay.
connection
So,
with
so
history that maybe we do. You know,
this is going right in. This is going right into my discussion that I have every week about wargaming, right? Because people tell me the same thing with wargaming that you're telling me with sports gaming, right? It's our generation will say the 40s and up, right? Because we've been
Mhm.
doing it for 20 or 30 years. We did it when we were little. We didn't have Xboxes back when we did, right?
Yeah.
So my thing is, okay, if 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 all of us are 50s and 60s that are playing war games or playing sports games and we all die off, what's going to happen, right? What's going to happen to our stuff if we all die off? Is it going to die off with us? It's our generation, the last generation? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I don't think so. I think eventually, when people's thumbs quit working, they might look into doing board games. But it's there's still some young people that play, and I think the best thing is thing I like to see a lot. In fact, is dads that play like Stratomatic or whatever with their kids.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that was more a staple when we were growing up. We'd play baseball outside, and then if it was raining, we'd go and roll dice and
Right,
play like a
right.
Stratomatic game. And sometimes the dads would come down and get involved too, and that was cool. And so I don't think it's dying. I just think it's always going to be a niche, and never obviously have the following that video
Think
game
you
is.
don't think so, huh? You think it's kind of a you don't think you would sell out like if you had 100 games and you had sit in your little booth outside the stadium with your little sign that said Glory Days Boxing. You don't think like 100 people walking by would go, "Ooh, I need to try this and buy it."
I'd probably sell a few, and like some guy would be, is this like Title Bout? I used to play that when I was 14. I'm like, yeah, it's similar. So then you get that interest going, and then you're going to get a 22-year-old who walks by and is like, what's this? And oh, it's a boxing board game. Really? Where you just roll dice and the fighters don't do anything? Well, no, you have to look at their cards and so you'd have mixed reactions for sure, but I think you could probably sell a few copies. But
So you sound like you this has actually happened to you. Oh, wargaming is also related to history. That is what I told
that's
my
a great
school.
point
Okay,
right there. That really
that
is.
is true. Uh, let's see what is. I don't think so. I think when you get old, they will want to play games with their heroes from their childhood. There
Yeah,
you go.
and that it could, like I said, it keeps me playing them, and that's what got me back into them a few years ago because I hadn't played a board game for, oh my God, almost 30 years, since the early 90s. And
Maybe it's just because I know, and when you talk to sports people, sports gamers, right?
mhm,
99% of us did it when we were younger,
yeah,
right? We did it like when we were 10 to maybe when we were in college. And then like the 20s and 30s hit, and maybe even the 20s, 30s, and 40s hit, and we didn't do it. And then we all came back like in their late 30s, early 40s. And then we started doing it again because we missed, you know, from 20 years ago. I
yeah,
have
and then,
like,
then we're like with me, I'm raising kids. I'm busy with their sports and still my coaching. And yeah, I think as you do get older, that's a great point too. You get a little bit more time and look to fill. You don't want to sit in front of a TV all the time. So it's like, yeah, let me. I remember I used to play APA or Stratomatic or whatever. So I think there will always be people that get to this demographic trickling in, especially when they see videos on YouTube or whatever. It's just never going to take off. I don't think. I guess is my
you
the
think,
way I look at it.
so you think the glory days, I would say kind of like the glory days for sports sims, right? You think it was the biggest it's ever been back in the 70s? Or do you think it's bigger nowadays?
I think it's pretty close just because, I mean, if you're looking at pure glory days in terms of how prevalent they were probably back then, but I still think there's a pretty good number of people now because there's more exposure through the internet and whatnot. And back then you found out about these games, those in TV Guide, or those you bought
Right.
the baseball
Right.
yearbook magazine, and in the back
Yeah.
it always had the
The little
managed real life
card,
ball
the little
players.
ad card. Yeah, the little
Yeah.
ad card thing. Yeah.
So I think now the word gets out to more people, but a smaller percentage of
A
people
smaller
play it. That
percent.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see it. Jack said he came back at 65. So
That's
there you
cool
go.
too. Well,
Yeah.
we've got, there's a gentleman that plays Glory Days boxing, and he actually I like talking to him over social media because he'll just kind of reminisce about when he was going to fights back in the 50s, when he was a young.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I mean, that's just super cool to hear some of that stuff. But
Right. Slash Deep Gaming says that's what got me into sports replay, reliving the 80s and 90s. Bad Boys, Lions, Barry Sanders, 84 Tigers, Tyson, the 99 Rams. I never played a sports dice game until 4 years ago. Wow.
that's cool.
That is awesome to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we'll see people like that, trickle into the hobby as they, get a little bit older. So I think there'll always be a market for it for sure.
So interesting, and I don't know if YouTube knew we were doing this and they've been scamming me, but you know how YouTube recommends videos for you.
Hmm.
So I had my recommendations from YouTube about my videos. One of them came up as Tommy Morrison, the fighter, and like a little documentary on his life and everything. And so I watched it, prepping for the show because I am a professional. I want to have material to talk with you about. I'm not going to just have silence going on here. I'm a professional here, right? So I watched this documentary on Tommy Morrison. What a great documentary it is on this person. And for I would call myself a non-boxing guy in that I don't know much about boxing. I watched the heyday of boxing with Mike Tyson when he was doing his thing. That was it, right?
Yeah.
That was all I knew was like Mike Tyson and a couple of the big name guys. And they're having a fight. I'm not a boxing guy, right? What an interesting story Tommy Morrison is, and what did you? Well, first of all, what did you? How did you rate him? What do you think of him as a fighter? And then we'll get into some of the other stuff.
I think he is a fighter that never lived up to his full potential. You see him, he had the body of a Greek god, and he didn't really, by all accounts, didn't train that hard. He was a partier, loved the nightlife. I don't even know how he stayed in as good shape as he did. I mean, he did. He looked like an Adonis, had a terrific power, especially in his left hook. So it's just one of those cases where he got a lot of notoriety because he obviously had bloodline ties to John Wayne, right?
Right.
And
right.
So he
and
was
then he got
always
in
trying to.
Rocky. He got in the Rocky movies, which gave him some
Yeah.
popularity. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in Tommy Gunn, I believe, in that. And so he kind of had a charmed life, but again, it's like that saying that you can't really envy some people because even though they have more money than you could ever dream of, they also have more problems than you would ever want. And I kind of look at him in that category. He was on a fast track to stardom, and just by not taking care. I mean, when he was upset by Michael Bent, he had a big money title shot on the line.
Right. It was coming up to who was it? Was it Spinks
Lewis,
or whoever it was coming up? It's going to be like a championship $9 million fight, and then he lost the whoever the fight was beforehand.
Yeah, and that I mean, his fight against Ray Mercer is probably one of the most brutal knockouts you will ever see.
Yeah, they
And
mentioned that in the movie too about how he got trapped. His arm got trapped on the rope, and he
and
really just
he absorbed some terrible shots, but he had, he wasn't the slickest boxer, but he certainly had enough skill, and he had power in both hands, and he understood the sport if he would have just worked harder at it. If he would have had the work ethic, and I'm going way back, but if he'd had the work ethic of like a Rocky Marciano, I think he would have been uh, definitely a tenured champion and well regarded. I mean, you look at look at him. Look at just Tyson Fury. He does not look like a fighter. If you stand him next to Tommy Morrison, who do you think is going to win that fight?
right, yeah,
But Fury has such an instinct. First of all, he loves to fight, which is, that's rare in itself. Um, Loves to fight, understands the game, and he has like an innate ability to just gauge distance and subtle movements. He's not very athletic. He looks clumsy a lot of the time in the ring, but he knows the sport so well that he is able to make it work.
right. So what is the stat in Glory Days boxing, right? So obviously when we, like you said, Tommy Morrison, right, skill wise and body wise, he's got what it takes, obviously, to knock out a lot of people, which he did, but he just doesn't have the grit or that intangible that makes the great ones, right? So
I,
what is the stat in Glory Days boxing that uses that?
a lot of that, so much because boxing has so many statistic, well, not even statistics, but ratings errors you can't quantify with statistics. There's so many intangibles and
Right.
so
That's
much of
kind
it
of
is
what I was getting
subjective.
at. Is there some things that you can't
So
actually put a number on, right? It's not like
there really isn't. I mean, CompuBox has only been around, a couple, 3 decades. So you can't go back and pull up CompuBox for the Jack Johnson James Jeffries fight of 1910, right? So one good thing about boxing, though, is it was probably, especially early in history of motion pictures, it was the most recorded sport. You can still find a lot of videos on YouTube of, the aforementioned Jack Johnson, Jack Dempsey, guys that fought back in the early part of the 20th century, which, you can't find that volume of videos on baseball games and football games. So there's a treasure trove of stuff on YouTube. BoxRec is a good source where you can do comparisons. And what I do when I rate fighters, that whole process, I'll go through and review their careers. And then I put them initially in tiers, right? And then I read a lot of old newspaper clippings that you can get on archives through libraries. Because back then also, before TV, obviously, the writer had to paint a picture of a fight when he did a newspaper story. So fights are much more descriptive in print from back in that time. So you can kind of get a feeling of how a fighter moved through words and, their skill level. And when you watch like Jack Johnson, he was a master at feinting. He'd feint very well, land his punches, tie people up. He was kind of like a heavyweight version of Floyd Mayweather Jr. He did what he had to do to win, minus the fact that when he wanted to, he could sit down on his punches and punish people. He chose to. Mayweather could too. He just chose not to. So there's all that comes into play, and it's really kind of fun learning about it. And that's to get off track. That's one part that's been fun about getting feedback from people who have bought the game. More than once I've gotten emails or whatever. Hey, I didn't know who this guy was. And I'm like, who are all these guys? But as I play them, well, were they this good? So then it makes me go back and learn about them.
right.
And that's that's my favorite part, honestly, of designing the game, because I love boxing history so much that it has encouraged some people to go back and
Right.
learn some boxing history themselves, which again keeps these old fighters alive. And and then when you're playing them, you're like, oh yeah, this guy had this fight, on this year or whatever. And, so that's kind of one of
And
the
actually
coolest things.
trying to learn about what they're
Yeah.
actually playing, and that's the cool. Yeah, that is super cool. I've done that with a couple board games where I purchased a game and I'm, well, this battle looks pretty interesting, and you just happen to look it up on the internet, and then you go to the Wikipedia, and then oh, this general was in the battle, and then you find out he wrote a book on the battle, and you buy the book, and it's sitting on my shelf now because I played the board game. So yeah, you've got the same stories with. So where did you get this passion for boxing? What was it was it a family thing? Was it a just something
No.
you grew into? What was it? Where did it come from?
It's a funny story. So, well, maybe not funny, but it's a story. Um, I was born in England, so I immigrated to the United States when I was young, and immigrated to Utah. So I came over an English kid in like 1968 with long hair, wearing funny clothes because everyone in England was like the Beatles then, to Utah, where it was conservative city with crew cuts and jeans and not plaid pants. So I used to get teased mercifully when I was a kid, and I'd go home and in tears some days, and Mommy, the kids all say I talk so funny. They call me Beetle Boy, and part of that, after a while, I just got sick of it, and I got interested. I would watch boxing on TV as a kid and try and emulate those moves. So if someone was picking on me, I could fight them. And then started boxing in my teens, and organized boxing and through Police Athletic League, and then really enjoyed it. And I wasn't great, but I did well. And there was a local heavyweight in Utah, Jeff Shellberg, who's actually in the game. Wasn't a very skilled guy, but had a tremendous punch. He hit probably as hard as Ernie Shavers did or George Foreman, just not very skilled. And he used to come into the restaurant where I worked just as I had started getting into boxing, and he'd come in with his manager, Angelo Curley. And I remember shadow boxing in front of his table for him once.
Really?
He's probably like, why is this kid bugging me doing this?
Oh,
But kind of became friends with him. And then Angelo, he invited me down to his gym. So I went down there and trained a little bit. And yeah, and at about that time, I discovered title bouts. So I just really immersed myself in boxing and started going back and reading about the history myself. I go to the Salt Lake Library and get old books and that type of thing. And yeah, so I just kind of, I guess, happened organically initially for me being bullied when I came here. And then I just developed a real passion for the sport and love doing it. So yeah.
well, there you go. Who would have known? Who would have thought little old Anthony was getting picked on? I mean, nobody would guess that little Anthony was getting picked on when he was a little kid. I wouldn't imagine that, right? I
Oh,
mean,
it was brutal.
I don't know. Brutal? Come on.
But that kind of, a lot of that drove me, because even I played football for a number of years, and that kind of would inspire me to do that initially. It was like, you don't even talk American. You can't, probably are a terrible football player. So I'd always get picked last. So that kind of stuff always just kind of motivated and drove me. So, but yeah, with boxing, it just turned into a passion that's, I still enjoy to this day.
You started playing cards and dice sims to get chicks. Yeah, sure, Dave. Yeah. We don't believe you at all. Wow. That is
So
a
I
great
had it all
story.
wrong. I was wearing bell bottoms and platform shoes and putting on that
That's so
fancy
funny.
cologne. I just should have been playing cards and
You
dice back
should have
then.
been playing cards and dice. The ladies come to the guys with the cards and the dice.
Yeah.
Wow, that is awesome. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. I do appreciate it. We didn't even talk about how long we were going to go. I didn't know how long you wanted to hang out. We were having such a good time talking. I just kept going. But
Well, that's
I
all good.
figure it's time to
Good to catch
wrap
up.
things up. And yeah, it's been, I would have never guessed poor little Anthony was getting picked on as a little boy. And but it's good that I respect all your boxing knowledge. You and Al Red Sox fan. I know when you guys get together and talk, it's way over my head. What do you think? All right, Mike Tyson in his prime. All right, best Mike Tyson versus best. That was the guy's name. Lennox Lewis. Sorry, couldn't think of his name there. I was going to say the British guy. Lennox Lewis, Lennox Lewis, best Mike Tyson. Who wins?
Well, he definitely took care of the not best Mike Tyson. I think Tyson would have had problems with him even in his prime. With Cus D'Amato, Tyson, well, obviously was a much more polished fighter, much more disciplined and more dangerous. The one thing Tyson had is he kind of emulated Jack Dempsey. Tyson, people don't know he was a real student of the game because his managers, I think it was Caton, had probably the most extensive collection of fight videos. So Tyson would just immerse himself in the old-time fighters and study them. And, at that point in time, that was really his main focus, was to hurt people. And he got away from Cus D'Amato after Cus passed away. And, unfortunately got just kind of sidetracked. But I think that's a hell of a fight. I think Lewis gives him trouble. I think Tyson is probably able to wear him down, maybe a late round TKO.
I think Lennox Lewis
honestly
is
Tyson,
underrated. Am I insane? I think Lennox Lewis is underrated. I think he is a great champion. What do you think? You think he's underrated?
100%. There's it was the same with Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes to me is a top 5 heavyweight. I think a prime Larry Holmes. I mean, obviously Tyson demolished him when they fought, but I think a prime Larry Holmes gives Mike Tyson a lot more trouble than Lennox Lewis would because of his jab, probably the best jab in heavyweight history. So there's a lot of fighters like that. I think their true worth comes into play, as they're removed from the sport. And I think Lennox Lewis is definitely a top 15, 16 all-time heavyweight, maybe as much as top 10, so he definitely was a skilled fighter. Riddick Bowe could have been, and Riddick Bowe just never was 100% focused, or I don't think he took the sport as seriously as he should have, so.
Right. Question that just completely left my mind. Who
Ginger or Marianne? Was that what you're going to ask?
Sure. Ginger or Marianne?
Definitely Marianne.
Okay, there you go. It was going to be about, who is right now, because I'm not a boxing guy again, who is current heavyweight champion of the world? I have no idea.
There are 2 of them. Tyson Fury is the lineal champion, and Alexander Usyk is the, undisputed champion. He took Anthony Joshua's titles. So those 2 are probably going to square up, I'm hoping, March of next year. Okay. And that'll be a very interesting fight. Usyk is a very skilled fighter. He's actually a fighter that, if he can get inside of Tyson's reach, can give him trouble because he's a very good boxer, very instinctive, and uses distance very well. The problem is Fury's, just such a big guy. He's going to dwarf him. So looking forward to that fight, but those are the 2 main guys right now.
Well, there you go. If you're out of the loop like I am, hopefully Anthony's caught you up on a little bit of your boxing knowledge, and
you know what we totally gave no credence to is look at Dave Gardner's comment. We totally underestimated Lovey Howe.
Lovey Howe was the smoke show in her day. There you go.
Dave, I just want to hear you say that in your Boston accent.
Yeah. It's just not the same coming from somebody that doesn't have that Boston accent.
Yeah.
With the smoke. The smoke show in her day. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks everyone for coming out. Thanks to Anthony. Thanks for catching up with everyone. It's been a wonderful time just hanging out, just chatting. No scripts, nothing to talk about. Just what the hell you been up to? What have you been doing? It's been a while since we actually had you on the show. So it's so good to catch up with you and finally get to talk. I'm so glad that you you had this week off and we were able to hook up and finally get together to talk. It's been great hanging out with you as usual.
Yeah, 100%, bud, and good to talk to you and catch up. And we definitely need to do a baseball pick show again this year.
That's right. We got to get back in the swing of that, and hopefully 2023. I already think I already have the world's. Now remember, all right, I had 2 in a row World Series champions. I picked who was it that I picked? I picked Washington Nationals. And then I picked who was the one before that I picked? I had 2 World Series champions in a row. Trying to remember who they were. Who was the one before the the Atlanta Braves, right. I picked them too. So there you go. Now I haven't done a show for a couple years, so the first season was short, 20, so who knows what was going to happen in that one. Then we decided not to do one in 2021 and 2022. So now we have to get back into it. We have to.
We do. And you know what my crazy idea for baseball is? I thought the COVID season was probably one of the most fun and interesting seasons in quite some time. I would love to see baseball go to a split season format. Some minor leagues already do it, and have the division winners from each half in the playoffs, and then expand the playoffs to get some of those wild cards in, just to keep fan bases interested and give them something to look forward to, because that's what was so cool about that COVID season.
Yeah.
Hell, you had almost every team in baseball with a shot going into those last 2 weeks of the season to get in the playoffs.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was definitely something they threw out to keep interest up, because they wanted to get interest in there because they weren't getting the fans, so they had to keep baseball alive somehow, I guess.
Yeah, every game mattered that year, and so many games now after July don't matter, and that's hurts the game. I'm looking forward to see. I actually like the pitch clock. I hope it helps.
I was just going to ask you there. With the changes, they're talking about defensive alignment not being able to shift anymore. The pitch clock. I mean, obviously sports change, they evolve, right?
I love the pitch clock, and we talked about the dead ball diaries I'm doing. One of those guys talks about, and this was in the 1960s when he was interviewed, but he was talking about then how ball players had to touch their nose and touch their hat, and it's 3 times as bad. It used to be we had the Mike Hargrove, the human rain delay in the 70s. Every freaking player is like that now. So I think I like the pitch clock change a lot, and hopefully there's a way to penalize the batter too. Like, you can't leave the box, you get 1 time out of the box, whatever. But I didn't like the softball runner on second base in extra innings. I'm glad that's going away. And honestly, I know a traditionalist will say ugh, but I don't mind the designated hitter in both leagues, because pitchers haven't really taken pride in hitting for a long time.
Right.
And
I'm a National League guy. I love pitchers batting, because it's the core mechanic.
Yeah.
But the problem is, right? You look at your little league teams, right? The best players, the best batters are the pitchers, right? They're the best players on the team. They pitch, they bat, they do everything. And somewhere along the line, either in high school or in college, somebody gets to them and says, "Oh no, you can't do both. You can only do one thing. You can't do both things. You can only do one thing."
Mhm.
And it ruined the game. I'm like you. I'd rather get rid of the pitcher's batting, because if you're not gonna freaking do it, then it's on you.
And
Right?
yeah,
It's on
really,
you.
I mean, the last pitching staff or team that had more than one pitcher that took hitting serious were those Braves teams in the 90s where Maddox and Glavine and them Smoltz
Right.
used to compete about how
Right.
well they hit. No
There's
one cares
literally
about
only
that.
like 5 pitchers in baseball that really care about their,
Yeah.
you know, I remember watching a game 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, where Zach Greinke hit 2 home runs. Or not Zach Greinke, the other Arizona pitcher. What the hell is his name? Bumgarner.
Bumgarner,
Where,
yeah.
where he hit, and now I got my cameras all whacked out. He had 2 home runs in the and yes,
But,
they don't take pride in it. You're right. They don't. It's just like defensively, right? The rules that I hate, I shouldn't say hate. The rules that I don't appreciate in baseball is because the players and coaches aren't forcing the players to be better, right? If you don't want people to shift on you, bunt into the left side every single time. That's all you have to do, and they'll stop shifting on you. How many bunts did we see the whole season? Like 3 or 4 accidental bunts. It's
yeah.
like nobody, yeah. So
Well,
now they're gonna put a rule in because they can't actually fix the problem themselves.
and I'm mixed on that. Ultimately I don't mind it because it'll bring more offense, but I think long before they talked about doing away with shifts, like you say, punish people.
Yeah.
And the thing is, players don't do that now because teams pay them to hit home runs,
Yeah.
and they pay them to, there's all these analytics now, velo and all that, launch angle and all that crap. So that's what, if teams quit rewarding that behavior, you'd see hitters do it. But if they're not going to, if they're going to reward that behavior, then they have no reason to learn to bunt or hit, the opposite
I
field.
think all sports evolve, right? I was just watching yesterday or today or whatever it was, like a 2-hour video on defensive plays, awesome plays in baseball. And there must have been, and I'm not kidding you, 400 different plays where an outfielder dove, with his glove out to catch, steal a double away from somebody, right? Okay. If players are bigger and faster than they were in the 1970s and 80s, it's without a doubt they're better at their position. They're making better plays than they did. I can't imagine having that many plays in 1970 of players getting robbed of doubles in the outfield.
Yeah.
It didn't happen then. So you have to change this. The sport's got to change other ways. Make the fields bigger so they have to cover more territory or something. I mean,
I hate to go to this extreme too, but even pitchers, a lot of guys don't really know how to pitch anymore. They know how to throw hard because, again, velocity, high fastballs. And that's the reason why we have starters that can't complete games, because every pitch is gas, everything they have on it. And they don't know how to work out of situations or pitch themselves late into a game by conserving energy. And, it is what it is. I still enjoy baseball, but to me, the excitement in baseball comes when the ball is in play, and it doesn't happen enough now. So do you move the
I
pitchers
don't.
now back?
The
No.
thing is, I enjoy good pitching games. I also
Yeah.
enjoy 12 to 11 games. I enjoy just good baseball all the way around. And that's just why it drives me crazy when they try to change the rules of baseball just to shorten the game. If you don't want to watch the whole goddamn game, then don't watch the whole goddamn game, but don't change it for everybody else. because you want the game to last only 2.5 hours. That's not right. That's my take on
Well, and
everything they're doing.
you can develop players to work quicker too. I mean, every pitcher doesn't need to take 30,
Correct.
45 seconds
Correct.
between the pitch,
Correct.
you know?
If you watch, I've been watching some 1990s baseball. I mean, for whatever reason, I've got 1990s. I've been playing football. I've been playing the baseball. Just back in the 1990s, which isn't that long ago, it is a completely different game. They actually freaking pitched the ball pretty regularly. Zoom, 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 zoom. You know, it wasn't 35 seconds between. It was crazy.
You know, but again, I know you hate it, but it's been kind of, the hand has been forced because they've just allowed the game to get out of control with, you know, it's almost like the batters are up there. They need to step out after every pitch to get their TV time, or, you know, no, you're not getting paid for how many minutes you're on television. You're getting paid to get on base and score runs. So.
Yeah.
Or even make a rule where the batter can't leave the batter's box, you know, unless he's hurt.
I would just say this would solve freaking everything. You tell the pitcher, you know, you call pitch or you call play. The pitcher can pitch. If the batter steps out of the batter's box, he can still pitch. Just throw the damn ball. If he's not in the box, too bad.
Well, and here's something, this is different, but did you watch the All-Star game last year where they had the catcher and pitcher mic'd?
I don't recall. I did watch it, but I don't recall.
They did a half inning where they had Nestor Cortez and Trevino was catching for the Yankees, and they had a mic, so we could hear them, but they were mic'd to each other too, so they were calling their pitches that way.
Okay.
You know, like Nestor would tell him, heater coming. That's cool. I would love to see that in every game where the fans could listen to that. And it made things go quicker because they weren't going through a series of 8 signs or then getting shaken off. They just right then they made their decision, threw the ball. That was actually pretty cool, I thought.
Huh. Yeah,
so
I like that.
And when you think about all they're trying to do with technology, like they're working that automated home plate umpire.
Right, home bait, yeah.
Well, bullshit. Just let the pitcher and catcher talk to each other so the pitcher can say, hey, I'm going to throw a bender, or I'm going to come slider, or high heat inside. And then you go, you know?
Right.
It seems simple. And again, it made things go so much quicker. And when you occasionally let the fans listen in for a half inning or whatever, it's really interesting to see them go through that process.
Huh. I like that. I have to go back and watch that, I guess, because I don't remember. Maybe I missed that part of the game or whatever.
And you know what else you do if you do that? You take the trash cans out of the game, and we're good.
The trash can bangers. Oh, brother. Well, there's a lot to talk about with baseball. I'll tell you, so many good things, so many good moments from last season, and then all the changes, and I mean, literally, it's like a 2-hour show all by itself, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Just talking about the baseball and the changes in baseball and what's going to happen in 2023, and I was doing some baseball here on the channel again, and I was looking, and I was trying to decide. I've got seasons from 1980 and 1990, and I was like, I know you guys like that stuff, but I like the fact that now in baseball, every team plays all the other teams. They don't just play their one division like a million times. At least this way, you get to see all the different teams in the league, which is, so what, for me personally, I know some people love it, but for me personally, I find it more interesting when you have interleague matchups and you have these.
I enjoy that 100%. I mean, look, and I know you're not a dead ball guy, but you go back to the dead ball era, and back then players made a lot of the money, not a lot, but they would make extra money after every season barnstorming. So a lot of the major league cities had 2 teams then: Boston, New York, Chicago. New York obviously had 3, but they would have city series. The Cubs and White Sox would generally play each other after the season, and the Yankees and Giants, and so it's that rivalry was already there, and it's interwoven in the history of baseball. So it's good to see it back now during the regular season, because I love watching the Yankees Mets play, and the Cubs Sox are a fun series, and you have other good matchups too. Reds and Indians, both been in Ohio, and so I think that's a positive thing. The freeway series with the Angels and Dodgers. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. I think, and with Seattle being real good all of a sudden, so that was really interesting. I thought I called that a couple years ago, and then last show I did on baseball, I talked about the Phillies and how good they were going to be, and watch out for the Phillies. I have to go back and pull that one up. But I said, watch out, the Phillies. The Phillies. I was a year early, but I called the Phillies, so that was good. Who would have thunk? I knew what I was talking about. I didn't think it, but
Well, it's good to see some teams like that emerge too. And I'm not a Diamond. I'm obviously a Yankees fan, but my second favorite team is the Padres, because we go to San Diego a lot, and Petco Park is one of the best places to watch a baseball game. It's a nice park. It's got character. You can see the ocean from where you sit, and good atmosphere. So I like that the Padres now are starting to take competing seriously.
yeah. It's great when you see, people say, teams buy championships, right? And the Dodgers have been stockpiling. It seems like every big name free agent has gone there in the last 3 or 4 seasons. I mean, they got it seemed, Turner, they got Mookie Betts, they had Kluber, they had, just stockpiled already on whatever they had, and then they lose in the first round. I thought that was the beauty of baseball for me. I was rooting obviously against them because I wanted to see San Diego beat them anyways, but I like to see the fact that, okay, baseball, it shows that baseball is literally, they call football a game of inches. Baseball is more of a game of millimeters. One pitch, a couple inches here or there is the big difference between a home run and a walk. This Cleveland. Yes, and they actually made the playoffs last year, Cleveland, and they came within one game of beating the Yankees out. That would have been a surprise and a shock.
They still should have been renamed the Spiders if you had to change the name. But,
right. The Cleveland Spiders. Oh my God!
I know the Yankees get grief for buying pennants, but like, to me, the player I wish they didn't have was Stanton, and that's one of those purchases. But Judge is homegrown, Gleyber Torres is homegrown, Nestor Cortez, and so they have a lot of players still that they brought up themselves through the system. That and I wish they would focus more on that, But if you have that
why? And I didn't even realize this until, of course, the big to-do last season. I didn't realize that all the National League had all the heavy home run hitters in their league, as opposed to the American League, who only had Roger Maris at 61, right? Maris is 61, right? And obviously all the other ones were in the National League. Why was there more? I'm trying to still figure out how to wrap my head around why the National League had all those extra home runs compared to the American League.
They obviously had the best PED dealers, They were connected.
Well, Barry Bonds, right? Okay, yeah. And they had Mark McGwire. And Sammy Sosa. Mm-hmm. And Barry Bonds, and who was the other? Caminiti. Okay. So But I mean, with all of the American League players through all these years, how could only 61? That doesn't, like, Ken Griffey Jr. never hit that many home runs.
Yeah.
What's going on? Why is the American, because of the DH? That was my question, right? That was my long around question. Was it because of the DH in the American League?
I don't think so, because I tend to think in the National League, good hitters like that would get pitched around more.
Right,
Because
right,
with a pitcher spot, you're going to have an automatic weak link in the lineup every
right.
time. So
That's why I couldn't figure out why the National League had like the top 8 batter or home run
and I think
hitters
that was
all
just a
time.
perfect storm. But even like McGuire, you could say McGuire if he had stayed, but again, he played in Oakland, and that ballpark is like a cow pasture. It's not a hitter's paradise, right? So,
Right,
and
right.
that could be some of it too. And the Yankees, I mean, even now the Yankees should have more left-handed power hitters than they do, and obviously Judge can reach any fence, but I'd still like to see them bring in a good left. I'd have loved to see them not go after Stanton and wait for Bryce Harper to become a free agent and go after him hard. He'd be nice in that part.
Stanton's contract's got to be about up now, doesn't it?
No,
He's been on the Yankees. How many years has he been on the Yankees?
I think he's still got 3 or 4 years left.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
What did he sign? A 10-year deal or what?
No, that deal. And I get the
13 years,
huh?
313 years, 325 million.
Yeah.
13 years. Are you kidding me? Holy cow! How many
So,
years? He's got all the way through 2028.
Yeah. So shit, 6 more seasons. When you take on that contract,
32 million, 30. Well, no, it's 32 million, 32 million, 32 million, 19 million, 15 million, and 15 million are left due. Oh my God.
So they could take a cap hit when they get to those under 20 million years, but you're not going to offload that contract on anyone now because he is injury prone, so nobody's going to want to trade for him. They're kind of just stuck with him.
American League had the better PED pitchers.
Actually, he's got a great point.
I like that. That's good. That's a good point. Yes,
that's a very good point.
I mean, maybe the American League just has better pitchers. Let's think about that. Probably throughout history, probably. I know what the American League's won like the last 8 American, what are they called? All-Star games, like the last 8. They won like the last 8 or something, haven't they? American League, National League.
Yeah, no, they've dominated recently for sure. Well, go back through history. Who are your top 5 pitchers of all time?
Oh, I mean, if you pre-1990, you're Steve Carlton, maybe.
Koufax.
Sure. Okay, I'll go with that.
Bob Feller.
Bob, he was on the what?
He was American League Indians.
The Indians, right. I got a signed picture from Bob Feller, actually. We were on vacation someplace. This is an interesting story. We were on vacation someplace in a mall. We were walking around with, I don't know, going to buy something for whatever reason. And there was a table and there was a bunch of people around the table. And we walked up to it and it was Bob Feller was signing autographs. And so I'm like, oh, cool. Let's buy one of these things. I didn't know who he was. Bob Feller. Sure. Must be pretty good. So
you're killing me.
I still have it.
You see that?
There you go. Let me get it out.
We're going to do the baseball memorabilia portion of the show now. While he looks for that, this is my commemorative Dr. Pepper from opening of the ballpark at Arlington, April 11th, 1994. I will probably never drink this now, but it's cool to have. He's still looking. Commemorative plate of Ty Cobb, one of a limited number made. This is also one of my favorite pieces. I did have a Rogers Hornsby too, which I broke, which upset me greatly. You find it?
I found it. I found it deep in my drawer underneath everything. This is how important it is to me. It was literally on the bottom of my memorabilia collector pile of things, right? So here is, and look, it's even signed to me. It's got my name on it.
Nice. You need to frame that.
Right?
Come on.
Bob
I do have, it's not.
To Kirk, best wishes, Bob Feller.
Yeah, you need to frame that thing. I've got, it's not in here, it's in my man cave. I've got a copy of Babe Ruth's 1930-31 contract where he made $80,000 a year, which caused outrage at the time, and now players make 3 times that a game.
Yes, sir. Trying to think of I've got all kinds of stupid crap in here, but most of it's just junk. I don't even know what I got. I don't even know. I held on to it because why not, right?
I've got so much stuff. I've got here, you'll like this one.
Oh. He says I should frame this. I should probably not have all kinds of stuff stacked on top of it, I guess.
Since you're such a dead ball fan, this is a tobacco card of Mike Donlin, New York Giants, 1911.
Oh, right. That's
and
cool.
I've got Harry Steinfeld from the Cubs. This one's kind of in bad condition. No $3 million Honus Wagner card, unfortunately.
No, you didn't get one of those, huh?
Didn't get one of those. I've got a piece of coal from the Titanic too, if that means anything.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
They had that up in Vegas, that exhibit, and the only memorabilia they sold from the Titanic is they actually recovered coal from the boiler room, and they just sold off little chunks of coal. So I've got one of those. Yeah.
Oh,
I love to collect old stuff. It's
I would get that. That's cool. I like stuff like that. Like this was on like the space shuttle, or this was on the Titanic, or this was, found in Ground Zero, or whatever, the situation is. I love things like that. Yeah, for sure. Well, there you go. That is our Christmas gifts 2022, and all of our gifts to you guys out there is Anthony. That's my gift to you all, is just talking with Anthony, bringing Anthony on, to just hearing all of his great stories, hearing about how he was a scrawny, picked on little kid with a weird accent, and he turned out to make a baseball or a boxing game, and where it came from. That is awesome. That is awesome. I love it. Yeah, it's a great time talking with you. I can't believe it's been. You realize it's now 9:00. It's 2 hours.
Yeah,
I've been talking for 2 hours.
I could feel my wife looking at me from the other room through the door.
She's like, "What the hell is he doing in there?" Well, everybody, thank you so much for. We're going to call it a night. We're going to get together with Anthony again. It won't be so long. I promise it will not be this long next time. We'll have to make this a regular scheduled program.
Yeah,
And
fun times, man. Good catching up for sure.
yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. Everybody, thank you so much. Have a great night. Hope your holidays go well. Hope your New Year resolutions for 2023 go well. Stay tuned for more Glory Days college football, Glory Days pro football, Glory Days baseball, Glory Days wrestling coming soon over on
Not all of them coming soon. Just because I'll start getting emails.
eventually. TBD, to be determined.
Right.
Thanks, Dave Gardner. Thanks, Dave Selinsky. Thanks to Dwayne Mart's YouTube channel. Thanks to Viper Dave, Jack Thomas, MV, Slashing Deep Gaming, Mantle, Phoenix Knight, Sports Time Machine, The Replay Gamer, and if name, I apologize. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for spending a little bit of your time with us. Hopefully your holiday season goes well. We'll see everybody real soon. Until then, take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night, guys.